Okay, morning, Randy. All right,
Morning, Rabbi.
morning. Okay, I'm going to start with our sponsors, and hopefully that will give Erwin and Ted and anyone else a chance to get on board, okay? A Year of Learning, Dr. Paul Koningsberg, in memory of his brother, Dr. Sam Koningsberg, Shimon Ruven ben Labish, and Ed Goldberg's cousin, Nisan Hara, Nisan ben Fardosa. Paula and Bob Romberg, in memory of their dear friend Julian Smith, Yehuda ben Yisrael. Malka Mann, in memory of her family murdered in the Holocaust. Harav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. The many friends of Dr. Marvin Blush, Moshe Shalom ben Yitzchak Halevi, friends of Toby Peres, Saratova bat Yisrael Dov, friends of Malka Levi, Malka bat Yosef, friends of Avi Gitler, Avram Meir ben Shimon, Cheryl Sher, her children and grandchildren, the memory of her uncle, founding member of BRS, Dr. Israel Brook, Yisrael ben Harav Akiva, Marcia Fetterbush and family, in memory of her husband, Dr. Oriel Paul Fetterbush, Oriel ben Harav Shimon. A Week of Learning, sponsored by Michael and Judith Paretsky, in memory of his brother, Avram ben Gershon. Today is the 22nd. Kate and Saul Goldstein, A Day of Learning, in memory of her father, Eliezer Yehuda ben Tzvi. Anne Bosowich Hochberg, in memory of her father, Yirmiyahu ben David. May the neshamas have an aliyah, Kranker Rafia, Velti Yeshira Sherma Tzliah, and L'chol B'nai Yisrael, a good gebenched yar. The other day, by the way, we missed a day of learning in honor of the 50th anniversary of Norma and Stephen Hamburger by Ruth Yaffe and family. That was from Sunday. Okay. All right. May Shamas have an aliyah, Krank Rafil Velti Yeshua Shema Talia, and L'chol B'nai Yisrael, a good gebenched yah. All right. The Gemara on Lamed dealt a lot. What we said were certainly rules regarding Pesach, but they had carryover to general kashrut aspects. For example, we saw the phrase kibol o kach polto was there. We saw also an example of a discussion of the walls of the earthenware items when they were glazed, okay? Things like that. So those had resulted in, I wouldn't say a separate area, but it applied to Pesach as well as general kashrut. Then we went back on the bottom of Lamed Amud Beis to a new Mishnah. Okay, that Mishnah then dealt with the question we said of, since we had seen in previous texts a discussion of using chometz, whether or not it was something of value, and as a result, what did that imply in terms of certain things? So that Gemara, the Mishnah and the new Gemara, is dealing in a sense with monetary elements, right? And I'm just going to quickly review that to go into our daf for today. So our Mishnah said, Nachri shehelva et Yisrael al chamso, okay, a Gentile that loans to a Jew using the chometz as the collateral, chometz that come from after Pesach, which we know was generally allowed, therefore it had value, mutar bahana, okay, saying that it is permitted in that case to benefit from it. Yisrael shehilfa et nachli, a Jew who loans to a Gentile. Okay, up again, using the chametz as collateral, chametz post-holiday chametz, asur bohana, it is prohibited to benefit from it. So the Gemara says, itmar, we spoke about this, right? Ba'al chov, when we talked about a creditor. Abaya mar lemafreyahu gova. Abaya claims that one only acquires that item, okay, retroactively. And therefore, that would be his explanation of the Mishnah. Rava amar mikanu lahabahu gove. And Rava disagrees, saying that it's based on once, not when the loan was initially entered into, I'll say, but only from the time eligible to actually collect on the loan. Okay. Now, the Gemara then went on. Kol hecha de'uktish love, v'zavim, every place, says the Gemara, where perhaps it's a situation, okay, where the person, okay, the borrower sanctified, consecrated the item, and then sold the item, right? Kule alma lo plige, the ate malva v'tarif. Everyone is, okay, ready to say they don't disagree, okay, that it's possible for the malva can come, the one who made the loan, okay, and seize, let's say, the item. And then we went over to Lamed Aleph, right, which is our daf for today. Va'ate malva eparik, or also that it's possible for the person to come and redeem the item from Hekdesh. How does he do so? This is where we finished yesterday. Titznan mosif o dinar, he adds an additional dinar, upodeh et hanechasim ha'elu. Okay, and he therefore then redeems the property from Mikdash, from Hekdesh. Ki pligi, where then do they disagree? Dezavin malve, v'kadish malve. Okay, it's a situation, it says whether they disagree, where the lender, okay, sold the property, and then after the lender sold the property, okay, the lender consecrated the property. Okay, so in other words, he could have sold the property, made it hekdesh, and then this property, what was the collateral? Now the loan is due, and what's the situation, right? What is what can be done? Okay, Abaye Amar, says Abaye, lemafreya hu go, right? According to Abaye, right, he can collect retroactively. Kevan demata zumane velo pare, since the time of the, let's call it the loan is due, the time has come, and he hasn't
paid,
collected on it. He hasn't paid. Iglai milta lemafreya. Okay, this reveals then the fact that it was due, past, right, and it came due, and therefore it's like he defaulted on it. The meikara birshute havakai. Okay, because in that case, all right, it's as if the collateral, I'll say for the moment, if it's land or something, was originally in his possession. Okay, v'shapir akadish, v'shapir zavin. Okay, and in that case, we can say it's well that he consecrated it. All right. In other words, it's effective, zavin, and it's effective, the sale. Okay. However, Rava disagrees. V'Rava Amar, umikan ulahaba hu gove. Rava says just the opposite, right? He can only collect the collateral or the property or whatever from here further on, from the time that I'm going to say, that the time that the loan was actually due. Havu le zuze. Because if he had had the money, have misalik laho bezuze, right? What we have done, okay, that he would have, paid off the money, right? Okay, or he could have prevented him, evicted him, whatever. Ishtakach dahashta kamakane, and there from that point on, okay, right? Since there it's clear that the loan was due, it was not paid, therefore, whatever was the collateral, in this case, if it was land, he can evict him from the land, or he can collect the money, whatever is the case, right? And acquire it. Now the Gemara is going to ask, Umi amar Rava hachi? Is that really what Rava said? Right? V'ha'amar. But wasn't it said by Rami Bar Chama, okay, the following, Ruvain shemachar sadeh l'Shimon. Ruvain, excuse me, sells land to Shimon ba'achrayut.
Guarantee.
Guarantee. Okay. What does it mean by a guarantee? Okay. In other words, if Ruvain has a creditor, okay. In other words, Ruvain owes money to Marvin. What happens? He basically says to Shimon, okay, I'm going to guarantee you that Marvin can't come and take it from you. Okay? Because the principle behind this situation is that what Shimon could do is, instead of paying the money for the field to Ruvain, noch besser, he would pay the money to Marvin directly. Okay? So that's the concept that the rabbis have here. Okay? Now, so what happens? V'zakfan alav b'malveh. So what happens here? And he establishes the payment for the field. Okay? In other words, Shimon established, they arranged this as a loan. Umeit Ruvain. Ruvain suddenly passes away. So what happens? Marvin comes along now. Va'ata bal chov de Ruvain. And he wants his money. V'tari flemi Shimon. And he wants to take the money from, or the property, okay, whatever it is, from Shimon. Va'ata Shimon ufaise bezuze. And what does Shimon do? Okay, he's going to take money out of his pocket and pay rather than lose the land. Okay. Now, the Gemara now tells us the following. Dinahu. Okay, it seems logical, reasonable, from a legal perspective. Da'atu b'nei Ruvain, that the sons of Ruvain could come. Va'amre le Shimon, and they might then say to Shimon, Anan, we, metaltale shavak avun gabach. Our father gave you metaltalim, okay, movable property, mortgageable, okay, property that can't be used really for the purpose of the right, right, of the collateral. Okay? And it's bayu, umataltale diyatme, the Baal Chov. And as far as a movable property, okay, it's not non-viable collateral, okay, particularly when it belongs to orphans. In this case, they may not actually be orphans, but the concept is that they are younger people who were not familiar with their father's business deeds. Therefore, lo mishta'abde, they are not suitable, right? They cannot be used as collateral or for mortgage or things like that to pay off loans. So the Gemara picks up now and tells us, Va'amar Rava, and Rava says as follows, Ipikeach Shimon, if Shimon is smart, if he's clever, what does he do? Megabe laho ara. Okay, what is he going to do? He's going to,
have the land.
Right, going to have them, right, take the land. Vahadar gabe la minaihu. And then he's going to come back and he's going to recollect the land from them, okay, afterwards. Right? Because this way he pays them off. Instead of using metaltalin, he pays them off with karka, which is something viable, valid collateral. But then he can say, but wait a second, okay, the point is, I need to get that land back, right? Why? Because I paid for it. It's really mine. The Amar Rav Nachman, because as Rav Nachman said as follows, Yitumim shegavu karka bechovat avihem, okay, using the phrase orphans, loose in parenthesis, okay, that acquired, that gained land as a result of a obligation, a debt owed by their father. Baal chov chozer v'goveh otal mehen. According to Rav Nachman, the creditor then can come back in turn, okay, and recollect that land from them. Now, Gemara wants to tell us, I amrat b'shleim lemafreya hu gova. Now we're going to apply this to the machloket of Abaye and Rava. Okay, remember Abaye says lemafreya hu gova, that it's as if it belonged to him originally, all right, during the time, before the date of the loan was due. Okay, if you hold that view, okay, it's as if, so to speak, we can say that it was while the father was still alive that belonged to the creditor. Amtu lahachi chozer v'gove otam mehen. Okay, if that's the case, right? If that's the point, right? Then that's the reason Rav Nachman can say that the creditor can collect the property, in this case, from them. Demikan de gavu mechayim de avuhin dami, because it would be no different than if he had collected it while the father was still alive. That's what it's comparable to. Ella, I amrat mikan ulahabahu gova. But if you're going to take Rava's position that said, right, that it's only the collateral only gets transferred from the time that the loan is due at that point, and then further on, amai chozer v'gova oto mahen. Why is it possible for him, okay, in our case, Shimon, to come back and collect it from them? Ha? Have kaman dezavin yatme nichse dami. Well, because there, okay, That would be more common, similar to a situation where the person who bought the land from these orphans, so to speak. Ve'ilu kane yatme nichse. Okay, and in this case, right? And if the orphans had actually bought the property themselves, Mika mishtabde leba'al chov, is it possible, okay, that anyone, particularly the father, would have used it as collateral for his creditor? That's the question. It's not his land. It's not his property. Shani hatam. Excuse me. It's different there, says the Gemara, in terms of Rav as a view. The Amar Laho, why? Because when he said to them, Ki hechi de mishta abdana, okay, namely that I am Shimon making the arrangement with the orphans, what did he say to them? Okay, when this collateral and mortgage was arranged, avuchan, for your father, mishtabdana nami lebal chov de avuchan. Okay, namely, he said, I also made out the collateral as such to the person that your father owed to your father's creditor. Okay, namely, me de Rabbi Natan, based on what Rabbi Natan said. The Tanya is taught in the Braita. Rabbi Natan Omer says, Minayan lenosei b'chavero mana, b'chavero. Okay, how do we know? He says that if a person has a claim, let's say, or owes his neighbor, okay, a mana, right? V'chavero, and his neighbor owes another neighbor, okay? A owes to B and B owes to C. Shemotzein mizeh v'notnim lezeh. That we take it, instead of A giving it to B, we take it, so to speak, out of B, and it goes directly to C. Okay? Talmud Lomar. Why? Because we have a pasuk, right? And what does the pasuk say? V'natan la'asher asham lo. Right? That's our pasuk. Okay? Right? He shall give it to the person to whom he is guilty. Right? Tznan. And therefore we have a Mishnah now that's going to give us another discussion on this scene, on this scenario. Tznan, says our Mishnah. Okay, the following. Nachri shehilva et Yisrael al chamatzo. This is our Mishnah, right? A Gentile who loans money to a Jew with the collateral being the chametz, right, from after the holiday, right? Mutar bahana, says the Mishnah. It is permitted for us to get benefit from that chametz. Now, I amrat b'shleim lemafreyahu gova. If you're going to say, as Abaye argued, that this is retroactive, right? Amtu lahachi mutar bahana. Okay, if that's the case, then it does seem reasonable, right, to say that it's used viable for benefit. Ela I amrat mikanu lahabahu gova. But if we say it's Rava's view that it becomes for the future, right, only when the loan is due, and then from then on, amai mutar bahana. Why is it permitted then, okay, for benefit? Birishuta de Israel havakai. Okay, it would be in the ownership, okay, of the Jew. Okay, if that's the case. Hacha b'mayis kina. So what then are we dealing with here? Okay. Namely, says the Gemara, Kesher harhinhu etzlo. What did he do? He actually deposited that chametz with the Jew. Okay? In other words, it was in the possession of the Jew. And therefore, since it's in the possession of the Jew, do we say he's over in Bal Yaroi, Bal Yamotze, number one, and therefore forbidden Hana.
Right.
So that would be the case. Right? So, but we might argue, well, it's still actually the Gentile's property, only deposited with the Jew. Does the Jew then therefore have some responsibility for it once it's in his rishus? So Gemara wants to go on and tell us, Lema ketanai. Shall we say this is actually a machloket Tanaim? Because this is what a Braita teaches. Yisrael shehelva l'nochri al chamtzo le'achar haPesach. Okay, the Jew loans money to the Gentile based using the chometz of after the holiday as the collateral. Eino over, says the Braita. Okay, he doesn't violate any prohibitions of benefiting from the chometz. Mishum Rabbi Meir. Okay, and this seems to be based on a statement of Rabbi Meir. Amru over, but others say, okay, that in this case, Rabbi Meir disagrees and says no, that he does violate the situation. Okay? So the Gemara asks, Ma'ilav b'hakemiflagei? Isn't this seem to be what they're arguing about? Damar savar lemafreya hugova, that one master holds that retroactively he can acquire it. Umar savar mikanu lahaba hugova, and the other master holds that it is from that point on, the future, so to speak. Okay, that he can collect it from here on. What happens, however? Vitisbara asks the Gemara, do you really think that that is the explanation? Is that really the case? Ema Seifa. I would say, look at the end of the Braita. Aval Nachri Shehalvali Yisrael. But a Gentile who loans to the Jew, Al Chametzo La'achar HaPesach, based using the collateral of Chometz after the holiday. Divrei HaKol Over. Everyone is agreement that there is a transgression there. So the Gemara says, Vaha ipcha mebayile. But shouldn't it be the opposite? Okay. Leman da'amar hatam eino over. According to the one who said there that he doesn't transgress. Hacha over. Here he transgresses. Leman da'amar hatam over. According to the one who says there that he transgress. Hacha eino over. Here he doesn't transgress. So what's the implication? Okay. Right. So depends on if he collected retroactively, okay, and it still belonged to the Gentile, okay, or not, or it depends if once it's deposited with the Jew, okay, if he only gets it from then on, okay. Elahacha b'mayis kinim. So what are we dealing with here, as says the Braita? Kigon sheherhinu etzlo. It's a situation where the one who was the lender, okay, deposited it the borrower deposited the chametz with the lender. And that's why I never went into banking, right? Ukemiflagei with the Rabbi Yitzchak. And they're arguing, okay, with the view of Rabbi Yitzchak. The Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. Minayin leba'al chov shekoneh mishkon. On what basis is it, okay, that the Baal Chov, the creditor, okay, acquires the security? Okay, Shena Amar, as it says, V'lecha tihiyeh tzedakah, and it shall be a charitable act done by you. Im eino koneh mishkan tzedakah minayin. Okay, if he doesn't acquire it, then why would it be called a charitable act, right? Mikan leba'al chov shekona mishkon. From here we see, okay, that the creditor is able to acquire the security. Tanakama savar, and Tanakama maintains the following: Hani mili Yisrael mi Yisrael. This act of quotes tzedakah really only applies when it's one Jew taking a security from another Jew. The Karina Bay, right? Why? Because then we can call it ulechati tzedakah and actually say it's deemed as a charitable act. Aval Yisrael minachri, but where we're talking about a Jew in a dealing with a non-Jew, lo kane, okay, he doesn't acquire it. V'Rabbi Meir savar, but Rabbi Meir's of the opinion here, kal v'chomer, Yisrael mi Yisrael kani, that we can learn a fortiori kal v'chomer argument from the example of one Jew to another Jew acquiring. Yisrael mi nachri lo kol shekain. Then certainly when a Jew acquires a security from the Gentile, all the more so. Aval nachri shehilva et Yisrael, but where it's the Gentile who loans the money to the Jew using as the collateral the post-holiday chametz, divrei hakol over. Everyone there is under the impression, okay, is under the understanding that it is a violation of transgression. Hatam, there in that case, what do we see? Vadai nachri Yisrael lo kane. Okay, that the Gentile does not acquire the mashkon, the security from the Jew. Okay? Now, the new Braita, to give us a slightly different discussion, okay, as follows. Actually, it's a Mishnah. Tznan. We learned the following Mishnah. Nachri shehalva Yisrael al chametzo achar haPesach. Again, the Gentile is loaning the money to the Jew based on the Pesach, on the post-holiday chametz, right? Mutar bahana'a. It is permitted to benefit from it. Nehi nami, the hirhinu etzlo. And according to this Mishnah, it's even in a situation where the Jew deposited the security, okay, by the Gentile. Ha amrat nachrim Yisrael lo kani. But here you've just said that the Gentile cannot acquire the security from the Jew. lo kasha. It's not necessarily a problem. Ha da'amar le me'achshav. Here in one case, when the loan was carried out, he said from now, okay? Ha de lo amar le me'achshav. In another case, he didn't say it was from now. Okay, there, in other words, we're saying that clarification of when the security, okay, would be, let's say, if we say available or viable, okay, that's the difference between whether it was done at the time, excuse me, the loan was enacted versus the time in which the loan was due to be paid. Okay? Umina Temra asks the Gemara as follows. Okay, and on what basis are you able to say Deshani le bein heche de amar me'achshav uvein heche de lo amar achshav? And on what basis are you able to present it, to teach it, to make this distinction between when one says that it's now versus when one said doesn't say now? The Tanya is based on the following Braita, right? Nachri, the Gentile, sheherhan pat purni etzu Yisrael, that he deposited a loaf of bread from an oven, okay? Right, and he gave that to the Jew as the security for the loan, okay? Eino over, by having this loaf in his possession, okay? Because notice it says shehirhan pat, that he deposited that bread. So it's in now the possession of the Jew. Isn't he going to be on over on Bayure Bayamotse? But our Braita says Eino over. But he says he doesn't transgress that. Why? Ve'im amarlo hagiatech. If he says to him, so to speak, it's now yours, okay? Or we might translate it a little differently, from this point on, okay? Let's say it's arrived, okay? It's yours from now on, whatever. Over. Now, then in that case, says the Braita, he would be transgressing Bal Yaroi Bal Yamotze. So the Gemara asks, Ma'ishna Resha, U'ma'ishna Seifa. What's the difference from our earlier case? What's the difference from the latter case? El Amar Lav Shmamina. But rather, don't we learn from this the following? Shani Hecha de Amarle Me'achshav Lahecha. It's different, okay, where he has said from here going forward. De lo Amarle Me'achshav. Instead of where he did not say from here, okay? Shmamina. Indeed,
Oops, he's gone.
Did we lose the rabbi?
I think so. I think so.
I think so.
Bob, you want to continue?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to continue.
Shmamina, yeah. That was the last word. Take it from there, Bob.
I took it already.
What did we lose? We lost half the people. Where'd they all go? Where'd
I don't
Mendy?
know.
Where'd
I went to
Marvin?
look for the loaf of bread.
Marvin left. Mendy left. I don't know. Where is everyone?
I don't know.
It's three of us right now.
Maybe we have to rejoin the.
Who's coming?
Oh, coming back. There we go.
There we are. Rabbi, we see you.
Now you should be able to hear me too. All of a sudden, I got thrown off. Okay. All right. So I'm picking up Tanu Rabbanan, New Braita there. Chanut Shel Yisrael. Okay, the store belongs to the Jew. Umala'e Shel Yisrael. And all of the, if you want to call it property, okay, in this case, the store, the foodstuffs, whatever is in the store, okay, in this case, belong to the Jew. And Gentile workers come into the store. Chametz shenimtza sham, any chametz that's found therefore in the store, achar Pesach, after Pesach, asur bahana, is forbidden for benefit. Ve'ein tzarich lamar, says the Braita, and we certainly don't have to say ba'achila in regards to consumption. Chanut shel nachri, if the store belongs to a Gentile, umala'e shel nachri, and all of the produce items in the store belong to him. Upo'alei Yisrael nichnasin v'yotzin l'sham, and Jewish workers come into the store, go in and out. Chametz shenimtza sham, achar haPesach, any chametz there, found in the store then, mutar ba'achila, is permitted for consumption. Ve'ein tzarich lomar bahana, and we certainly don't have to say with benefit. Okay, now we get to a new Mishnah. Okay, slightly different Mishnah, but still very direct with our issue of chametz. Right? Chametz shenafla alav mapolet. You have some chametz that what happened was clearly that there was a landslide or something, okay, a rock slide, okay, that covered this chametz, okay. Harehu kimivoar. We're claiming that it's as if it's been removed, eliminated. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, he says, Kol she'ein hakelev yechol lechapes alav. Okay, his qualification is that's only so long as a dog is not able to dig it up and go after it. Gemara, Amar Rav Chisda, says Rav Chisda, Utzrich sheyivatel belibo. Again, a clarification that it must be that the owner of that chametz has to nullify it, okay, in his heart, okay. Tana Kama, okay. So, however, we see as follows, okay, the following, okay, Chafishat HaKelev, okay, so he taught how deep might, let's say, be the digging of the dog searching for this chametz, Shloshat Tfachim. It could be as deep as 3 handbreadths. Amar le Rav Acha Barei the Rav Yosef, says Rav Acha, the son of Rav Yosef, the Rav Ashi, Hada Amar Shmuel. What about that which Shmuel has said? Namely, Ksafim ein lahem shmira ela bekarka. That in order to protect one's money, the only way to do so is really to bury it in the ground. Mi ba'inan shloshat tfachim olo. In that case, do we also need 3 tfachim depth to bury the money or not? Amarle, he said to them, Hacha mishum recha ba'inan shloshat tfachim. there, in that case of the chametz, because of the smell, the odor, we need 3 tfachim. Hatam, there in the case of the money, mishum ikisui me'enehu, why that's simply an issue of trying to conceal it from anybody's vision, right? V'lo ba'e shlosha, we don't need 3. V'kama, amar Rafram barav misichra, so how much? Asks Rafram from Bar, right? Bar Papa of Sichra, tefach, just 1 handbreadth deep. New Mishnah, Hamat Nitin, again, Ha'ochel Trumat Chometz B'Pesach. We have somebody who has b'shogeg, eaten, okay, truma that is of chometz on the holiday. He did it by accident. Meshalem keren v'chomesh. He must pay the equivalent amount and then add 1/5. B'mezid, if he ate it, okay, in purpose, okay, what happens? Mipatur mitishlumim, okay, and if it was pure truma, right, he is exempt from any payment. Why? Because we have kimle midarabamine, a situation where eating the pure truma on chometz, of chometz on the holiday, he's subject to karet. Okay, that's the greater penalty. And we always say, kum lemi derabamine, that whatever is the greater penalty, he is due, and the lesser penalty falls aside. That's why he would be forgiven on the payments. Umidame eitzim. Okay, and also we've got there a situation where the question of having to pay for any other transgression, let's say, of using the value to pay for the firewood. Okay, in that case, we would argue, okay, that since the truma, okay, was used, it's tameh, okay, it rendered the firewood, okay, also in that case. Now, quickly, Gemara, Tznan Hatam, our Mishnah teaches there, Ha'ochel Truma b'shogeg, Meshalem keren v'chomesh, right? That's what our Mishnah taught, that one who ate this Truma inadvertently, right, must pay the full amount, okay, well, what we'll call the principal, plus maybe it's a knas, okay, of 1/5 in addition. Echad ha'ochel ve'echad ha'shoteh. Okay, both whether he eats it or whether he drinks it. And we'll just go over a tiny bit. Ve'echad hasach, and also one who would be, let's say, using oil and anoints himself with this truma oil. Echad truma tme'ah, ve'echad truma tahora. This is true whether it is, want to say, pure truma or kosher truma, or whether it's not. Okay, mishalem chomesh v'chumsha dechumsha. Okay, in that case, if he did it right, he would have to pay the 5th, which we said might be considered a knas on the principal, and even then he might have to also pay another 5th of the 5th, okay, as well, right? And that's where we're going to stop today, because the next question, okay, is deals with repayment, right? So we'll stop right there and pick up tomorrow, okay?